Bro, what's up? How are you?
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
I can hear you now.
There we go. There we go. How are you, man?
I'm doing good, dude.
Good, man.
What's
Looking
going on with you?
shredded. Looking shredded, bro. Look at you.
Hey, we got to lead from the front.
That's right, baby.
I had to go take the sleeves off real quick. I was like, all right,
Hell yeah, dude. How you been, man? It's been a second.
yeah, I'm fucking good, dude.
Yeah.
Uh, just making gains in
Yeah.
all kinds of things. So
Hell yeah, dude. That's awesome, man. That's good to hear. That's good. Thanks for doing this again, man. I know it's been a second since you've been on the podcast and stuff. So thanks for carving some time out for me today. So
yeah, man, always. Anytime Mr. Hamilton says he needs something or asks for something, it's done.
I love it, man. Well, you and the whole squad have just been like killing it like crazy. So like, yeah, I appreciate you guys a lot. So
Hey, I always say it's like it's all about what the other person is like. It's just a mirror of you, you know what I mean? It's
mm-hmm.
like so it's nice to have somebody who's bringing the heat on that side as well. So it makes our job a lot more enjoyable. I mean, you know how it is
Oh yeah. Oh
when
yeah.
you're working with people.
Mm-hmm. Well, I always say for me, it takes a village. So
That's what we try to do, man. Like we'll have conversations about, like the entire coaching staff will have
yeah.
conversations about, what's going on with Jared. Like, all right,
Yeah.
what do we need to do? What adjustments? And so it's not just like one brain
Oh
working on
yeah.
something. It's everybody.
Yeah. No, that's
So
awesome. For that, no, though, for those people that are listening that don't know, I think because I made a podcast like with Johnny, like when him and I started, and for those that are listening that don't know, the whole team out at San Jose Barbells hooking me up and keeping me real taken care of, especially like with this whole knee thing, bro. Like it's been throwing me for a loop, but
how's it feeling now?
it's good. I'm still rocking crutches for another 2 or 3 weeks. Docs don't want me doing anything like non-weight bearing anything for 6 weeks total, and I'm
Yeah,
right at 3.5, 4 weeks.
yeah,
So, but
on
I'm
schedule.
yeah, I'm a little bit ahead. I can take it to about 95 degrees, and they don't want me to go past 90 until I hit my 6 week mark.
Yeah,
But even the PTs are like a little bit surprised with how slow they're taking me, but they probably
yeah.
just know because I'm gonna be an idiot and be like
Well,
balls
I
to the
mean,
wall. So
yeah. Well, for one, but and also for two, I mean, the doctors just. I don't know how your doctor is. I'm not speaking for every doctor, but generally they're gonna be more cautious. You know, just that's just the nature of that
yeah,
side of things. So,
for sure, for
um,
sure.
but yeah, I mean, I always with injury. I mean, I don't know how much we've talked about it, but like injuries were where this whole thing for me came from, and kind of just informed my whole philosophy and like principles on like how we do things and how to train the body and all that. So
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's kind of what I want to get into today with you and why I wanted to get you on here because you said something on one of your it was one of your podcasts or it was a post of yours, but you used the term effortlessly lean, and I'm like, oh, I like that a lot, but like effortlessly lean and strong as fuck. So because you have like because like that's like what exudes from you. Like I mean,
yeah,
you posting all these videos from you walking up to a bar, in like freaking khakis and a polo and ripping 405 off the ground like with nothing, but your philosophy behind nutrition and just like how the human body should function. So that's why I really wanted to get you on here and talk about kind of your into things. But before we get into that, for those that are late to the podcast, like from when we did our last one, talk a little bit about who you are and your story and like why people should even know you exist. So
um, cool. So my story is I grew up a skinny, fat Indian kid. I loved to play basketball. I think I started playing basketball when I was like, I don't know, like 4 or 5. And just kind of, I don't even know why. Actually, I will tell. I know why. When I got into elementary school, or when I was in elementary school, it was like that was my thing to like get. girls to like me and like, you know, uh, get, you know, whatever kind of street cred that I was
Sure.
apparently looking for. You know, I don't know. But along the way, when you do something every single day, um, for hours and hours, you become good. Like you can't. This is the thing. It's like, and this goes for everything. It's like when you just do something so much, you're gonna get good at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, basketball was my whole life, but I didn't know anything about nutrition or training. I didn't know anything about nutrition or training till like almost towards the end of college. Um, so I played high school, played college, and we didn't have any sort of like solid strength and conditioning like in any of the programs that I went through. And so I had tons of injuries because I was, you know, like I said, I was very physically weak, and I was exerting myself way beyond what like the frame that I came with was able to handle.
Oh.
So I always like, I give the analogy of like, I know you use a lot of car analogies, so this is one that, you know, really I really like. It's like I had a Prius body, and then I had like a Mustang engine in it. It's just
Oh
not,
shit.
you know
I
what I
love
mean?
that.
And the thing is, everybody is a lot stronger than they think. Like strength is just muscular tension and like contraction of a muscle.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. And so everybody can do that, but not everybody has the frame to be able to, you know,
Sure.
not mess it up. You know what I mean? So that's why like that analogy is so like applicable in my mind, is because like everybody pushes themselves like a Mustang, but they got a Prius body. Like
Yeah.
it's gonna break, you
No,
know,
I
and that's
love
what
that. I'm
happened
gonna
to
steal
me.
that from you, like hardcore.
Please do, please do. So the thing that it led me to was like I went to doctors, I went to all these places, PTs, whatever, and nobody could really like pinpoint. I had excruciating back pain, shoulder stuff, all kinds of things. So, and that's what led me to go, okay, well, I need to figure this out. Found kettlebells. That was my first introduction to like strength.
Hmm.
From there, I ended up at a CrossFit. From CrossFit, I got deeper into all of the other stuff. And so it's just been like, and I just dove in like researching and reading and like just immersing myself in it. So that's kind of what led us to, you know, that's where I met Alj at a CrossFit, and Alj's my business partner. He's the co-owner of San Jose Barbell, and then yeah, we opened that in 2013, and here we are. So
Oh, it's
um,
dope as hell, man.
yeah,
I swear I'm gonna make it out there this year and chill with you guys and get some lifts in and whatnot.
it's
So
gonna happen. It's gonna
I'm like,
happen.
I don't, but I swear I'm just gonna like show up one day. I'm gonna message like one of your girls and be like, hey, I'm coming this weekend. Are they gonna be there? And I'm just
They're
gonna,
gonna go.
and just
They're
gonna
gonna go
pop in.
crazy. Yeah.
And then I'll wait till you guys are like in the middle of something and I'll just be like, hey, what's up? Like, who's that short little dude over there? Like, for real though, when, what's interesting with stuff like that, everyone who like I've only known like through the internet that I've never met in person, everyone is shocked with how short I am.
How tall are you?
So I'm 5'6", so shorter, but I'm all torso.
Hey, on the internet you look 6'1", so that's all that
You know,
matters.
I'm told on the internet I'm told by multiple people I look 6'1", 250, and uh I'll like go to like conferences and shit, and I'll have someone that'll like recognize me and they're like, wait, Jared, what's up? Oh shit. And they get hype, and then they like are almost disappointed, and they like
Yeah,
back
they're
up and they
like,
like head to toe me, and they're like, bro, like holy shit. Like we'll put it this way, like our mutual friend Jordan Syatt,
yeah.
uh Jordan comes to my nose, to give you kind of perspective. So like I'm barely taller than Jordan.
Well, hey, I was like I said,
That's one.
the magic of movie making, or magic of the internet.
It's nuts, bro. Yeah, but no, my inseam's only like 25 inches, so I'm like all torso. Like I'm like a
Yeah.
normal adult, like from the waist up, but then like my legs are still like for toddlers. Like it's weird.
So the Yeah, so you should have got into like Olympic lifting then.
No shit, bro. Like from a lever system, like I'm like built for deadlifting.
You're like perfect. It's perfect.
But no, man, no, that's I didn't know all the details of that story. That's dope. But let's talk about the concept of being effortlessly lean and strong as fuck. Like just like why it's important and how does one go about that? Because a lot of people, just you and I both know the misconceptions with like the concept of becoming lean. Like effortless is very rarely in that vocabulary for most people, and then just becoming strong while being super lean, because then that
Yeah.
whole stigma, like you have to be big and fat to get strong. So I'd love to hear you talk about those.
Yeah. So I guess it goes back to like when I was younger, and I'm sure you remember like the early days of like the muscle and fitness magazines, the early days of YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Um, actually, still now, but the whole thing was like everybody was doing beast mode shit, right? Like that's what you saw. And then when you would look at these magazines, without you didn't have any context of what was actually going on, as far as what does it take to look like that guy on the cover. All you would see is like, oh, this guy works out like this crazy stuff, and he eats only chicken and broccoli, and like um, it all seemed much harder than what the reality of it is. So when you don't know what you don't know,
Mm-hmm.
that's your biggest stumbling block. And there's so many people who don't know what they don't know. So for me, I was just like, okay, I guess Greg Plitt. You remember Greg Plitt?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Rest in peace.
Yep.
So Greg Plitt was this fitness model who was just in insane shape. And he was one of the first guys on YouTube putting out YouTube videos for workouts and things. But everything, do you remember any of those YouTube videos?
They were
He
just
was
like insane, intense, hardcore, everything, right?
nuts, fucking nuts. Like he would be like, I'm going crazy, and
like when he passed away, it was because he was out running a train, right?
I,
Like
I think so.
but all his stuff was like that insane.
Yeah. So that two things happened. And so for me, what happened was, for the most part, like I would try things from age 12 to like 19 or 20. I would try things. I would buy the magazines. I would,
Mm-hmm.
you know, watch the videos and so on and so forth. But it felt so difficult to even begin. And then when I did it, like not having any guidance around how to properly train, like I just, there was large chunks of time where I just stopped. I didn't train. Like I didn't
Yeah.
work out. I played basketball. Um, but so there's two things that happen. One, people start and they're like, okay, well, I got to do it like Greg Plitt, or I got to do it like CT Fletcher, or
Mm-hmm.
whoever on Instagram, whatever guy or some booty girl on Instagram, they're still all kind of doing the same
Oh yeah.
thing because it gets views, and it gets eyeballs. And so I would do stuff and I'm like, this fucking, like, I can't do it. I just can't do it.
Right.
And so I would just feel shitty, and like I would try again and I would not do it, and whatever. The other thing is, some people, they just get so intimidated or turned off. They're like, oh, they don't ever even start. They don't even attempt to do anything. So, and then when I found kettlebells and I began to learn early on, like principles of what is like, it starts from like learning what I think definitions and words are so important. And so
Sure.
when I began to learn like what is strength, how do you build strength, from like Pavel, Dan John, all these people early on who actually know how to do this stuff correctly. And I started to get a little bit of strength that I never had before, dude. Like when I played basketball my whole life, if you like even like blew air towards me, I would like lose my balance
Oh
because that's
my
how weak
gosh.
I was.
Wow.
But I started doing kettlebell swings and reading Pavel's stuff, and the one of the very first things that I experienced where I was like, okay, like I can do this. Somebody bumped me on a drive and I didn't lose my balance, and I still weighed the same and I still looked the same, but I was a little bit stronger. So learning what strength is and how to, rather than guessing, because it's all been figured out. It's been figured out. There's no mystery. It's only a mystery because mass media doesn't know anything. Mainstream doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
So uh, I started to get stronger, and then I found CrossFit, and then even then there was this mentality of trying to go crazy. Do you know what SEAL Fit is?
Vaguely. Talk about it though.
Long story short, SEAL Fit is a Navy SEAL who started an offshoot of CrossFit, and they would do Navy SEAL type mentality
Yeah.
workouts.
I know what you're talking about. Yep.
So me and my buddy Gary would be doing double days and triple days and like 6 days a week.
Oh my gosh.
I was that guy. And I was like, why am I like, my shit's fucked up? Like, I'm doing muscle ups till I can't move anymore, and I have a bum shoulder. We just did a Metcon, and then I'm over here with Alj trying to max out my power or my squat clean.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
since I'm fatigued and I don't know any about, like, I hit my knee on my elbow on my knee, and like
Oh no.
silly things. So, and it just the injuries forced me to learn more. Like, they became my greatest teachers. And so, it's
That's
just
an awesome mentality, by the way.
100%. A lot of people get afraid and scared of injuries, in which you've done actually a phenomenal job of demonstrating what mindset to have when you do get injured, because most people don't do anything. And so your speed and recovery, it's not surprising to me, because you're still doing stuff.
Yeah.
The blood flow is that, and people, it's like so simple. Like, what heals? Blood flow. How do you get blood flow? You move. Oh, I can't move my knee. Guess what? Your cardiovascular system, all your arteries and your blood vessels, it's a closed system. So if I'm moving around like this, I'm still getting circulation everywhere in my body.
Yep.
So the worst thing you could do for an injury is not move. That doesn't mean be stupid and be like, okay, I'm gonna go squat when I just had a knee injury. No, it's like, do whatever is pain free, right? So that's kind of what led me to, and then I met great coaches and teachers. David Delanave, who I learned biofeedback from. Like, we've had a discussion about biofeedback. It's basically, biofeedback teaches you to, like, listen to what pain is. And pain is not a bad thing. Pain is a beautiful piece of information that helps you figure out what to do and what not to do.
Stove is hot.
Dude, exactly. Like, the stove is hot. So you're going to pull your hand back. Don't leave it there. There's pain, right? It's like, you heard the old thing of, like, oh, you go to the doctor and you say, oh, this hurts. And the doctor says, okay, so let's stop doing that. It's like, there's no badge in, like, pain and having the most pain or fighting through pain. That's just not knowing, right? So, yeah, I would say injuries is what kind of led me to this philosophy of, like, well, the truth is it's not difficult. I wouldn't say maybe difficult is the right word, but it's like, it's a lot more. It doesn't have to be ramped up to like 100% to get results.
Nope, I totally get that.
So that's kind of where all that philosophy came from all those injuries, and like just learning how simple things really are, and they're a lot simpler than everybody makes it. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of where the effortless ideas kind of came from.
No, I like that. So in your opinion, how does someone go about becoming effortlessly lean and strong as fuck, especially, like, whether you want to get technical about, like, well, it's better to phase it, or you think you can do both those at the same time, or how someone changes their philosophy from, this whole game has to be terrible and starving and, like, in such a bad place, to making this effortless.
That's a great question, and I think it starts with this question: do you want it to be easier?
Mm.
Because if you don't want it to be easier, it's not going to matter. Like, you actually got to want to make it a smoother ride.
No,
Because
that's such a good point. Everyone from the get-go thinks they have to suffer and be in a negative place, and no one's even looking for that door. That's such an amazing point.
yeah, and because I never, I'm not interested in convincing people that, hey, like, this way that I've discovered or have been learning is the right way. I only want to talk to people who are looking for a better way.
Yep.
Right. So that's the first thing. The person's got to ask themselves, like, am I open to doing this in a in a more fun way, in an easier way, in a more effective way? If the answer to that is yes, right, then now, okay, cool, we can, the first step is knowledge. Like, if you don't have to learn everything all at once, and I didn't learn everything all at once, but then we begin to break it down. Like, for food, it comes down to this. If you There's some people who'll say you don't need to track calories. Cool, you don't. But when you know how the system works, you have the ultimate freedom. And
Yeah.
it won't require, you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you could, the answer is simple. We always say jerf, right? Just eat real food. Like, that's our foundation. If you had a pyramid, jerf is the foundation, because real foods, fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, they have low calories. They have tons of vitamins and minerals, and generally you're gonna feel better while you're doing it, and you're gonna be more full, right?
Mm-hmm.
So jerf, you could jerf for the rest of your life, but you may not have the knowledge to eat a piece of cake, or you might be afraid to eat a piece of cake because you just think it's bad, right? So in my opinion, now you learn how this works. And
Mm-hmm.
how it works is very simple. You talk about it all the time. It's just calories. As far as my size goes, this is like fundamental laws of physics. Like, I'm not going to get bigger unless I bring in more material for myself to get big. Just like, um, uh, for anybody who wants to get technical, the law of the conservation of matter, right?
Oh yeah.
Like, matter can't be created or destroyed. Like, that's a law of the universe. So guess what? I'm living in this universe, so I can't get bigger unless stuff comes in, right?
Yep.
So just learning those fundamental things gives you that freedom. So that's how I approach it with nutrition. Um, and then with training, I we have another we've laid down like principles over the years. It's really interesting. When we started out, I would look at other organizations or companies, and I'd be like, oh, it's so dope that they have these principles. Like, and I'll be like, oh, let me sit down and create principles or
Mm-hmm.
like values. It doesn't work like that. Like, the values come out of the stuff that you're doing
Sure.
organically. And so one of the truths that we found and we live by is strength. Health can never be divorced from strength, or strength can never be divorced from health.
That's a bullet point if I ever heard one. That's fucking awesome.
And I like to, and that's actually a quote from George Hackenschmidt, who's old time strongman. Uh, and I like to add to that, there's no weak people who are healthy. Like, you can't be weak and healthy.
That's really good. That's a very valid point. That's awesome.
So for and the science is now
Mm-hmm.
backing that up. But even just like, I like to just observe things and tell people, like, don't take my word for it. Just observe. How many people do you know who would you classify as, oh, this person is super healthy and they're physically weak? It
Yeah.
doesn't exist. So the first thing that's important to me is strength. So whatever you do, like, find out a way to start to get strong that's enjoyable to you. And try to learn from some. It's cool now because there's so many great resources. Like you put out tons of information. There's tons of guys and girls that are on the internet who are sharing good information. So find out somebody that you kind of like their vibe and you feel like they're trustworthy, and just begin to. The best thing is always to hire a coach,
Oh yeah.
because it's more individual to you, um, and you can like cut that learning curve. But that's the first thing. It's like you got to do it correctly. And so the second part of the strength equation is you have to learn, like, movement, like the grace and beauty of your movement is key.
Mm-hmm.
So this was an idea from Dan, John, and Pavel that I learned a long time ago, and it's that strength is built on shitty movement. Uncoordinated movement will lead to injury.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's just gonna happen. So the first thing I do is I start to move better, and I start to just think about these words, grace and elegance, in my movement. And it's as simple as like, hey, I'm getting up and down off this chair. I'm not gonna plop down and be like this. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna control myself into this seat, right? And I'm going to move with as much fluidity as I can. If I'm doing a walking lunge, it's not gonna be sloppy.
Right.
It has to look pretty, because when you're doing that, you're using your muscles to control the movement. So you're building strength right there.
Mm-hmm.
You're building coordination, and now you, on top of that, you build the foundation of strength, and you can do any strength training program out there. Like, it doesn't even matter.
No, that makes
um,
total sense.
so that's kind of my philosophy. So if somebody, I always try to make it simple as I can, but that's kind of the order of things I would go about in how can I become effortlessly lean and strong. That kind of is like the first part of it. uh, Ask yourself that question. Learn nutrition basics. You don't need to get complicated. And then strength training with kind of that focus of like quality and prettiness in your move. If it's not pretty, I don't want to see it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? That's kind of
You,
the
what's interesting though, even along like the way you put that, like everything should have a level of grace and elegance to it. But I would even agree with that even further when it comes to looking at some of the most insane, savage stuff. If you watch, like if I watch, one of my favorite UFC fighters is Conor McGregor, and when he goes into like his most recent match where he just tore that dude up in the most intense, beat his ass way, there was a very much of a level of grace and
right.
elegance to the way he beat his ass.
It's
Or
true.
like fuck, he didn't even mess his hair up, like
No, no.
but when things kind of seem to go south, just thinking about that, it's when grace and elegance go out.
Yeah.
That's such a good point.
Because those things lead to compensations. Like, that is why you're moving in an uncoordinated, jerky type of way, is because you're compensating. So you're putting strains on your joints, your tendons, your ligaments, right? And those things will, like, that's not what they're built to do. Like, they're built, muscles are built to move you, right?
Yeah.
And for the technical geeks out there, they'll say, oh, your tendons contribute to your movement. That's all good. That's like a separate discussion. But
Right.
the main thing is, they're not made like, movement is supposed to come from your muscles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the big idea. I like that you mentioned Conor McGregor. He's been working with Ido Portal for quite a while now. For anybody that, or a lot of people might not know who that is, but it's the whole touch butt or thing that people make fun of. Have you heard of that?
Huh.
So Ido Portal is this movement guy, who I also like learned a lot of stuff from him. But his basic idea is like, to be able to have strength and endurance and uh, grace in your movement in your body. And when you watch this guy move, it's so beautiful and effortless. And so, which is, Connor's a very smart guy. Like, he brought in this guy to
Oh
personally
yeah.
coach him. And so, you know that thing where he does like this
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
right?
yeah. The shoulder roll thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So that movement, right, shows tremendous fluidity of movement in your scapula, in your spine, to be able
Oh
to
yeah.
move in that way. And so like it looks funny and it's kind of dope, right? It's badass.
Well, and
But
that's
that's the
how.
reason.
Well, and then when he was in his most recent fight against Cowboy, he did those shoulder checks to his and like busted his nose up.
Dude,
Like, do you know how much force you have to in such a small range to generate? And like, I wanted to bring that up because you mentioned that just movement pattern, but like for him to load the way he does and smoke him in the nose with his shoulder enough to like fuck that guy up,
he was done. He was like,
Yeah.
what? Just that control, that coordination, right? That comes from thinking about these things versus don't think about, oh, I'm gonna do some exercise and whatever. It's like, make it beautiful, and you're gonna, when you just focus on making things pretty and beautiful and each repetition. I know it's like distracting for people because they want to get this goal,
Yeah.
but you end up falling in love with the process, and then
Mm-hmm.
the outcome is far greater than what you can even imagine.
Sure. No,
So
that's such a valid, amazing point.
yeah.
So let me ask you this: what's for you? What is, and I know we've touched on some of these a little bit indirectly, but for you, what are the biggest reasons most people fail? Like everyone throws around the statistic that most people fail on their diets and on a program, but like for you and your experience with all the people you've worked with and your studies, for you, what are the common denominators behind why so many people never get what they want as far
Yeah.
as the results?
Is this getting too loud?
No, you're good.
Okay. Um, I think the number one thing, you can have a combination of a lack of knowledge, uh, doing the wrong things, so on and so forth. But I think the underlying thing, or the most important part, is that people are far too hard on themselves and mean to themselves. There's a severe lack of love and self-compassion. That to me is the biggest thing, because here's the thing: if I'm not compassionate towards myself and I'm like, I gotta do this, and there's so many, like, I talk to people, I don't come in with an agenda about what I want to cover. I come in, I ask them like, what's going on, and then we
Mm-hmm.
slowly pull the threads out. Like, I talked to this one lady, and I was just noticing her. She's doing fasted cardio. She's doing 2 workouts a day, all of this stuff. And so we talked, and I was like, what's your goal? Like, what's up? Because she had responded to one of my Instagram posts or stories. Turns out, her family has always been like really just mean and judgmental about her and her
Mm,
weight. So she's felt this need to like I need to be skinnier so they'll be nice to me. And these things are like subconscious, right?
yeah.
And so then those voices which you grow up with, they become your own voice. And so I'm like, those things you're saying, that's not your voices. Those are your mom's voices or
Mm-hmm.
your siblings' voices. Like, um, can you just be okay like where you are right now? Like, are you really not a good person because you're overweight? Right? And so there's all of these self judgments that we have, and so which lead us to either, there's a couple of things that happen. One is they have, it's like, oh, I got to do more. And then when they
Yep.
mess up or they fuck up a little bit, oh, I feel so guilty. I went over on my calories, or I missed a workout, or I should have gone harder, right? And so there's all these negative loops that we go in, that then it just prevents you from being consistent.
Sure.
Or if you're the type of person who can like battle through that, cool. You're gonna get a 6 pack, you're gonna get lean, and you're gonna hate yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
No,
what?
No, I totally get that. It's interesting. I was just reading, looking at, there's a gentleman I was studying. His name's Kyle Cease, and he was talking about some of these things in the world of business, but they apply for all this stuff where, like, when you're just in that constant chase, 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 I gotta get, you're separate from it. And if you're separate, we only get what we are. We don't get what we want. So then we never get the goal. If you can't love yourself how you are now, then you
Dude,
might get shredded, but you're going to hate your life.
dude, and you know what? I saw one of your stories in the background. You were listening to Kyle Cease. I was like, Jared knows what's up. Like, listening to Kyle, there's a bunch of, people and teachers who are giving this information and this, like, these insights. So that's exactly on the money. You're right. It's like, you don't get what you want. You get what you are. And if who I'm being right now is somebody who's unhappy or like super judgmental, and I feel guilt and shame and anger, that's what I'm gonna get.
Yeah.
That here's more car analogies for you. Uh, you ever gotten into an argument with your significant other, and you're supposed to go somewhere and you're in the car and you get into this argument and you arrive there, and like, do you just automatically show up and have a good time? No,
No.
no, you don't. So you can't have a happy ending to an unhappy journey, right? Like, it's just
Oh, that right there, baby. That's good.
so it's the same thing. It's like, so if this whole time I'm like not feeling good, then when I get to whatever the goal is, I'm still not going to feel good. So the trick, it's not the trick, I guess it's the truth, is if I figure out what I want and I can start to be that now,
Yeah.
then when I arrive, I'm already arrived. Why do I
Yeah.
want anything? Because I think I'll feel good when I get it. So, but I can access that good feeling right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the thing. And like, we we expect to show up and then, start to feel good, but it's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
uh, so yeah,
There
that's
was there was
I would say that's the main thing.
For sure. Dude, there was something that you said. It's been I think it's been a hot second ago. It was, I think last year on like a video of yours that you just put on Instagram or something. And it like, I always remembered it. And it, when you said it, it like made me kind of sit back and go, oh, that makes an amazing amount of sense. And I think a lot of people don't realize this. It was either a video you posted like last year or a conversation you and I had, and it was basically just saying like look, you have these goals over here that are positive. There, you want to get healthy, you want to be stronger, you want to feel better, you want to live longer, be a better example, whatever, all these very positive, amazing, worthy goals. But if you're over here, hate life, hate yourself, hate who you are, have to suffer, have to be miserable, like, you're in two opposite planets, and one doesn't lead to the other, you know.
It
And you
doesn't.
said that, and I'm like, that's one of the most profound things I've ever heard. So I think it falls kind of in line with this.
100%. And like, this is why I recommend, like, everybody listen to like some of the videos from Kyle Cease. He makes it more approachable for us regular people, because these
Sure.
ideas are like universal truths, like for ages, right? All of the wisest teachers that have come through, they've shared these truths, but like, we're so distant from those that a lot of people today, they're like, oh, whatever. Like, no, like, these people have
Hippy
been
dippy.
yeah, like, oh, Jesus and like Buddha, blah blah blah. Like, he makes it more accessible for us, and you begin to see the depth of those things. So what I was going to say is, like, we all have struggled with this. And so the key really is, like, you can't judge yourself. And Kyle talks about this all the time. He's like, forgive yourself. Because without the forgiveness, somebody might be listening to this and they might be like, oh, well, Ranbir's super shredded, or he seems like he's talking like he's got it figured out. No. And so then that person is judging themselves based on, you and I having this
Mm-hmm.
conversation. My message for that person is forgive yourself, because when you have that self-judgment, it's not going to allow you to feel gratitude. It's not going to allow you
Right.
to feel good right now. So that's why, his message is so good. It's like the key to move forward is to constantly forgive yourself and thank whatever is happening. He has that saying, he's like, thank you for that, right? Like
Yeah.
I just judge myself. Thank you for that. I forgive myself, right?
Yeah.
And he always says that. And even I was like, this is kind of silly at first, but it was because I was still learning and I
Yeah.
wasn't, you know what I mean? So uh, forgiveness, that's why I was always like, self-compassion is the real superpower. It's
Mm-hmm.
not even compassion towards other people. You're trying to skip the step.
Yeah.
Forget about being compassionate to other people. Just be compassionate to yourself, and then everything else will kind of
Mm-hmm.
happen by itself.
Well, I think along those lines is a lot of people are amazing at all this shit for other people. Like one of the things that I've been talking about lately is like the concept of just keeping promises you make to yourself from a character standpoint and an integrity standpoint is like at the end of the day what so much of this is about. And everyone's good at making promises to
Other
everyone else.
people.
Like literally, if I said, Ranbir, I'm going to fly out tomorrow and fly or water your flowers, or if I said, hey, I'll pick up your kid tomorrow at school, or all this stuff, where like most people are amazing at keeping those promises.
They'll
When
move
you,
mountains for other
oh,
people.
absolutely. But when you flip the script and they're like, I'm going to start getting up earlier, and then they don't. Or I'm going to start that diet on Monday and then don't. Or like, I'm going to start making my bed every day and then don't. Then they quit verbalizing it. Then they think it, but then it still get torn down. But I think it's the same kind of thing. Everyone's good at being compassionate towards others, keeping promises to others, but we're shitty with ourselves with most people.
And, and you're judging yourself all the fucking time
Yep.
for not doing it. See, and that's really like, I work on this. I've worked on this so much. We see personas on social media, and
Mm-hmm.
we don't really know what is this person feeling when they're sitting by themselves, because that's the truth, right? Like who I am when I'm all by myself is what the truth of it is. And so I work on this of like, I said I was gonna do this, didn't do it. I forgive myself. Like I still love myself. I have compassion toward myself, and it's that moment, that like habit is tough, but the beautiful thing is that it's doable and it's
Yeah.
possible, and it changes everything, dude. It changes everything.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
so yeah, I know like my my specialty, I guess, all this talk about getting super strong. Like I'm 155, 154 right now. And I will gladly, my last deadlift that was cold was 425.
Fucking A.
Um, but, and we're talking about all of this other
Internal work
stuff.
and stuff.
Yeah, but that's the most important.
Yep.
That's the most important. And I was listening to a conversation with like a bunch of the world's strongest men, like not
Mm.
just current, but like a panel of like all
Sure.
time. You know what they were talking about?
Hmm.
Self-compassion.
Right. This is one of the reasons I love you so much, and I love having our relationship and to being able to have this conversation on the podcast, because like we get started talking about like on paper like effortlessly lean and getting strong as fuck and dialing in food and all this stuff, and we end up talking about self-compassion, keeping promises to ourselves, and internal work. It's
Yeah,
it's it's the most amazing thing.
yeah. And you know what? And so I always think about that, and I'm like, and that's why I always tell you, like, I'm so grateful that these are the people that I'm around, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of us live in our bubbles, and we don't, and that's okay. That's actually, I mean, whatever it is, it's good, because you can recognize, oh, I'm in a bubble that doesn't make me feel good. I can be in a different bubble,
Mm-hmm.
um, but it's like you kind of whatever it is, that's why those questions are so good. If I ask as long as I want to feel better physically, emotionally, I will get there.
Yeah.
But it starts with that. And people skip that step and then they wonder why things don't work out, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But also I'm like, I've been thinking about this recently. I'm like, oh, but hey, dude, Ranbir, don't forget to also give people the technical knowledge that you've learned, because
Sure.
that's, like, you want them to get strong. Like, why are you here? You're here to help people get really fucking strong. So don't forget to balance the love and the self-compassion, which is the foundation,
Sure.
with the technical stuff. Because, you know, there's still so much garbage out there. And I think it's our job to continue to share the right information as
Yeah.
well. So I think it's important to balance that, because there's this, you've been around long enough now to see the pendulum shift, right? Like, now some people are going so far into this self-love thing, but it's more of following the trend and regurgitating stuff
Yeah.
rather than like like finding, like, doing the work themselves. Like,
Mm-hmm.
don't start teaching other people or like preaching to other people. Instead, just do the work yourself on yourself. That's the biggest gift you could give to the world, is you doing this for yourself. You know what
Well,
I mean?
I cannot transfer something to you that which I do not experience myself. It's why
And
it's why you see it's like why you can see sell, like if someone's trying to sell you something, why someone could sell you something effortlessly, and some people you can see the bullshit right through them, like a lot of, like, for that, from like that kind of example, or
yeah,
uh or some people just click with you, or some, whatever, it's just
yeah,
from an energy
because they're
exchange. I
being
can't.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, I can't transfer to you something I don't experience myself. It's
yeah,
impossible.
yeah, yeah, man. There's so much along these lines that, as long as you're open to feeling better, things will get better. And you just kind of interrupt that pattern of constant shit talking to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty
Yeah,
much it.
no, I totally agree.
Um,
So let me ask you this. So, one of my favorite things to do is when I get people on the podcast, I like asking really weird questions that makes them go, "Huh, I've never been asked that before." It's one of my favorite things on the planet. So far these questions usually do okay. But one question I want to ask you is, what are some things no one is asking, but they should be asking?
it's a
Like,
really good question.
everyone asks the same shit. Everyone's like, how many calories do I need? Hey, how do I get really quick results? Cause I have vacation in 2 weeks. But like, what's the stuff that people should be asking that they're not?
That's a really good fucking question. And now you're gonna make me think. Um, and by the way, I'm no stranger or to awkward silences or silences, period. So if somebody's listening and they're gonna get impatient, then you'll just have to
Fuck off.
change to something else. Yeah.
Right.
Um, what are questions that people should be asking?
Cause no one's asking the right stuff. Everyone's like, there, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's good questions, but like there's just all the stuff that, like, you and I know that we teach and help, but like there's a lot of it no one's asking about, like, to even get those answers. But what are questions that, as someone's going through this, that no one's really asking that they should be?
Um, for one, I guess I could go back to like what we started off with, is like, do I want to do this in a way that makes me feel better and makes me a better person? Um,
Mm,
I think that's a very important question,
yeah.
because then that's what opens the door to everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, this another question would be, so, people, uh, there's so many coaches and fitness people and businesses that are out there that a person could be looking at.
Mm-hmm.
A question to ask: do I feel, does listening to this person or this business make me feel good? Because who
I like
you're
that.
getting your information from is going to have a big impact in what, your path, right?
Mm-hmm.
um and I like to use this criteria, and this is how I also now, I hire coaches all the time. Like I you know spent like 30 grand on coaching last year in various areas. My first thing now is like, do I feel good with this, how this person talks? Because there's
It's
some
almost like
people.
biofeedback, but here and here.
Yeah, and it's subtle, but it's these things that we ignore, right? Like you get this like weird feeling of like, ugh, I didn't really like that, but you ignore
Yeah.
it because what the person's selling it, or their butt cheeks look great on Instagram, or like they're selling some sexy product, or they got abs and they're talking like whatever it is, right? There's no judgment on those people. It's just for you to be like,
Sure.
I don't, something about this doesn't feel right to me. So look for a person. So the question to ask is like, do I feel good with the person's message and their vibe? Because that will point you in the right direction.
Yeah. No,
Um,
that's such a good point. Um, even like reflecting, looking at like the people who uh, who I'm around and spend most of my time with, and who I get coaching from, like with you guys, I mean, priority number one, like whenever like I got a hold of you guys to help me with my stuff, like if I didn't have that feeling or that energy exchange with you guys and the crew over there, then it would have never happened. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So it's almost like a heart and mind and gut biofeedback. It's,
yeah.
you know,
No, dude, you're on the money. Like it is biofeedback. It is biofeedback, and it's like it's the same thing as like when you're doing the toe touch test.
yeah.
For anybody who doesn't know, like go search David Delanave biofeedback to get an idea of what we're talking about. But um, it's your guidance system, and um, it's so subtle, and we have so much chatter that we don't listen to the inner voice, and there is an inner voice. We just kind of like, oh, this sounds dope. This person has great copywriting, and like their taglines are great, and like they got great
Mm-hmm.
testimonials. I'm in, you know. Um, but yeah, man, I think back on, I'm not gonna name any names, but there's some coaches that I spent time with and spent money with, and they would say things, and I'll be like, okay, I guess this guy's really
Same.
successful, so I should do this. I'll say something like, I won't say the name or the program, but like I remember a guy was like something along the lines of, your job is to extract money from these people, something along those lines. And I'm like, and you're like, you're wanting to learn and wanting to be good and
Yeah.
be successful, and you're like, okay, there's only 5 spots left, and like, and I'm the whole time I'm thinking about what this guy said, when if I would have had the skill to listen to what my body or my biofeedback was telling me, soul feedback, right?
Yeah.
And
I like
I
that
would have been like,
soul feedback.
yeah, like I would have been like, oh no, like I got to find somebody else. The
Yeah.
last coach that I worked with, who he was a business coach, but he was far more than that. Like he just appeared in my life, kind of, I feel like I manifested him, but he's been the greatest coach, the greatest teacher I ever have experienced. And it was from the feeling like
Yeah.
I was going to work with him no matter what I had to do,
Mm-hmm.
because I felt so good talking to him.
Yep.
Um, so
No,
yeah,
that's such a good point. That's such a good point. Um, all right, another one for Johnny and I actually got talking about some of this stuff last night on our call. For you, what are some of the what I call unsung heroes of getting true results. And what I mean by that is you see in like, when it comes to like superheroes, it's like, oh, this was the unsung hero. It's not very sexy, shiny, or exciting, but like, it's just as big of a deal as Superman. Like for example, for me, I was talking to Johnny with some of the bullshit going on with my stuff. So like, there's days like things have been like, for me, with my knee, the hardest thing I can do with my knee right now is cook. Out of all activities, cooking on crutches is the hardest thing for me to do. So there's a lot of times I would be eating out, or things are nuts, because then there's just stuff was crazy. So not worrying about what I can't control and being in controlling what I can, like just living by the principles of eat when I'm hungry, stop when I'm full, and don't eat like an asshole. Like, I know I shouldn't smash a whole pack of Oreos, so I'm not going to smash a whole pack of Oreos, like stuff like that. So for you, what are some of your unsung heroes of this game?
Um, for being lean and effortlessly strong.
Yep.
One, I would say, um, he who lifts the longest is going to have the best physique, body, health.
That's
So
awesome. I love that.
if I can stick around and show up in the gym for the rest of my life and not injure myself or make excuses and uh, skip weeks, months, years, if I can just show up, by the end of it, I'm going to have the best physique, because that's
Yeah,
the main ingredient. Because there's lots of guys in gyms all across the country who have just been in there every week for like decades, and they they look amazing, and they might not even know what they're doing, but they're there, and they don't get injured, and they don't skip. So I guess consistency and not worrying about the perfect thing is probably one of the most unsung heroes.
mm,
Um, on the nutrition side, um, limiting variety is an unsung hero, because with the whole pendulum shift of if it fits your macros and counting calories, now you have the freedom to eat literally anything and everything every day and get lean. We forget that sometimes there's beauty and simplicity and
sure.
effectiveness in eating the same thing every day,
Yeah.
right? So finding something that you love and then doing it every day, like,
Mm-hmm.
so for me, if somebody knows, if anybody knows, it's gonna be, that's where the little burrito boy
The
comes from,
burrito boy.
right? Like, I have my recipe for burritos that is high in protein, it's low in calories, and it's fucking delicious. When you come out here, like, we're gonna have some burritos,
Hell yeah.
and so it lets me like hit my protein and keep my calories low. So that's my same meal, right? For somebody, it might be ground beef and rice. It might be, spinach, fish, and whatever.
Yep.
But learn one or two or three recipes that you love and you can do again and again and again. And like, when I'm trying to get super lean, that's where I go, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I go to the burritos, and I go to, I have In-N-Out Burger is like in there, but it's the same thing every
Sure.
single time. So my daily meals, anybody can go in my fitness pal and look at it. It'd be like, damn, this guy should be sponsored by fucking In-N-Out. Like, how
Yeah.
much I eat, right?
That's awesome. Oh,
So repeating the same daily menu, um, I would say that's a big one. Is
yeah.
make it easy for yourself. That effortlessly lean, make it easy for yourself.
Yep.
Like, it's not impressive if you're like talking about how hard it is and blah blah. Like, sprezzatura is an Italian word we learned from David Della Nave, which means making or difficult things look easy. Like,
Yeah.
isn't that mastery? Like, when
Yeah.
you watch Michael Jordan, it's not like because he's struggling. It's like because it's effortless and it's
It's
beautiful, right?
graceful.
It's graceful. So like, when I'm doing if I think about how people approach food, like, oh, it's so hard. Oh, blah, blah. Like, that's not graceful.
No.
It's not elegant,
Nope.
you know. But if I'm like, Unsung hero, I'll give you this. I could talk about unsung heroes all day. I bought myself a knife on Amazon for 20 bucks. It stays in the sheath. Okay. I put it in a separate bag and I have my cutting board in there and I have my knife. I call it the swing swing. It's the thing that keeps the blade sharp.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And I put it in my separate bag. And so, and I've learned just basic things of cooking, right? When you have a chef's knife, it's the longer, bigger one. You don't hold it by the handle like this. You hold the blade, like where the blade part is. You hold the blade because it gives you more control. So these simple
Mm-hmm.
things, and I use these things to elegantly cook my meals and make things look graceful. And I've practiced cooking chicken where people are like, "Oh, it's bland. It's this." No, no, no. That whole way of thinking is not very graceful. Like you're very uncoordinated and sloppy in your thinking. And so if I want if I can shift that and bring elegance into this as well, man, it's going to make your cooking easier. You're
Oh
going to
yeah.
have more respect. Like that's mastering it and making it look easy. So yeah, I don't know how I added
No, that's good,
my
man.
my cooking stuff in there, but yeah,
No, that's awesome.
repetition. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's dope. All right, last question, because I know we could just do this for hours. I totally
Hey,
forgot
you
that
gotta cut me off, bro. You gotta cut me off.
I totally forgot I asked on an Instagram poll some questions. And so I'm looking over and I'm just looking over these there and just seeing if there's anything good on here that we could ask. But one thing I'm curious, I would love to hear your thoughts on that someone asked. Um, I'm guessing you and I have very similar views on this. And it's probably not the most popular opinion, but one person asked, how can I, because there's some technical questions like how long to stay in a deficit and all that stuff. But this one stuck out and it said, how can I stay motivated for 6 months or longer? I would love to have your deep mind on that one.
All right. Okay.
I have
I'm
my
gonna.
own thoughts on that one.
I want to hear your thoughts as well. I feel like they'll be in the same ballpark. Okay. So the person who's asking, this goes back to like you don't get what you want, you get what you're being. The the person who's asking, how do I be consistent for 6 months? So what was the second part of that question
No, it was
again?
just how do I be motivated for six
How do I be
months?
motivated? Okay. The person who's asking how do I be motivated is implying that they're
They're
not
not.
motivated. So what am I being? I'm being a guy who's unmotivated. Okay. So when I recognize that, I'm going to get what I'm being, right? So I'm going to get more reasons for being unmotivated. My behaviors don't come out of like willpower. My behaviors come out of my identity, right?
Yeah.
And so if my identity is, oh, hey, Jared, like I'm this guy who's unmotivated, like, and it's okay. This is where the forgiveness is key. I have to forgive that. And it's like, oh, I'm judging myself and I'm feeling bad for myself and I'm struggling and blah blah blah. Like I forgive that. But if I come to you and I'm like, Jared, and I start telling you my story of like, dude, I've been struggling and I can't do this and my kids and I got work and blah blah blah, all of these things. What am I being? I'm being somebody who's not, what do I want to be? And the beauty of like recognizing, you just bring awareness to it. You
Yeah.
bring gentle awareness to it. When I recognize what I don't want, that tells me what I do want. That's from
Mm-hmm.
Abraham Hicks. Like there's a lot of things that I take from Abraham Hicks, who's another spiritual teacher. And it's always when you know what you don't want, you know what you do want. So what you don't want is not a bad thing. It's a
Sure.
beautiful thing,
Yep.
right? Same thing in training. When I find out that bench press hurts me and it's painful, I know I don't need to do the bench press,
Yep.
right? So then if I know this, what am I looking for? I'm looking for not this identity of I'm unmotivated. So what do I do want? And people have a hard time talking about this or figuring it out. I want to be the guy who want to be the guy who's like always handles his business. He's like, when I try to use identities, I start picking composites of different things that I know that attract me. So like, I always think of Jason Statham in The Transporter or John Wick. All right. What's that identity?
Yeah.
I'm like, I am
Bro
a
gets
craftsman.
busy.
Dude, I'm a craftsman. I don't need motivation. Does the transporter use motivation? No, he's an
Yep.
artist at transporting things. He has an extra suit in his trunk. So okay, cool. That's the identity I want. So if I can just bring that gentle awareness to this and forgive my whatever I've been thinking, right? And I can start to feel good about it. You know, as I'm talking to this, am I talking about this to you? I'm doing it for myself.
Sure.
Like and I'm beginning to feel good, and
Yeah.
it feels better than being like, this doesn't feel good. You know, I always do this, and I always like, I set my alarm and I never get up, and this and that and blah blah blah. Like I've been trying and it just sucks, and like that you see the energy shift, you feel it. But when
Yep.
I'm like, man, I'm like the transporter, I'm like the John Wick, right? Like I'm a master with this thing. Then the behaviors that come out of that are different. I'm looking forward to cutting my chicken. Like think about that. Unsung hero. Who looks forward to cutting their chicken when it comes to fat loss?
It's a good
John
point,
Wick.
bro. Yeah,
Fucking
that's
John
right.
Wick does.
You
And
know
so
what?
the behaviors change.
Yeah. Dude, what's funny is as you're talking about that, your entire physiology changed. Like the way you sat
Yeah.
in your chair, and I bet you weren't even like
No.
thinking about it, but you sat up straighter, you got on the edge of your seat, and you're using your hands more, and your eyes opened wider. Like, and I think people forget that when they start changing the way they think about this stuff, physiology changes subconsciously, and the way you feel changes. Like, I think people wait to feel better, to act better, versus if you act better, you're gonna just naturally start to feel better.
Yeah. And it's giving yourself that permission see, that's like, it always keeps coming back to forgiveness and
Yep.
love. Because if I can't forgive all of the shit that I fucked up on, quote unquote, then I'm not gonna let myself, I'm not gonna feel good enough to be like, even have that little
Yeah.
dialogue. Like I encourage people to be like, go talk yourself through this, and just keep trying it, keep practicing it. Of like, you know, as somebody who's figured out how to be lean, and it's not very difficult, there's still been times over the years where I'm like, okay, it's all good. I'll just, I'm gonna eat these 12 Oreos, or not track these 4 Oreos, and that still happens. And so as I forgive all of that, and I allow myself to be like, Kyle Cease calls it his Kalego exercise, where he talks about what he wants as if it was in the past, or as if it's
Mm-hmm.
right. People think that's silly and like whatever, but it's instantly like changing my what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it, and I'm not using force. I think that's probably like the last piece of that. It's like,
No, that's good.
don't force. I put a thing on my Instagram yesterday or whatever about like softness beats hardness.
Yeah.
Water is soft, rocks are hard. Water wears rocks down. So like, that's what we want. If I'm hard with myself, I will lose. But if I'm
Yeah.
soft with myself, like beautiful things happen. So
No shit. Yeah.
um, hopefully that's like comprehensible enough for
Yeah,
somebody to
bro. No,
put
that's
into
good.
action. But
Yeah. No, that's good.
yeah, um, be the John Wick of whatever you want to be.
That's right, baby. No, that's good. Man, dude, there's a lot of gold nuggets on this one. Like, I don't even know what to title this thing now because I thought I was going to keep it at like effortlessly lean and strong as fuck. But like, I don't know, dude. Like, I'll figure something catchy out.
Yeah.
But no, dude, this is good. So, yeah, no, this is a lot of gold nuggets. Wrapping up, if anyone wants to learn more about you, coach with you, fucking follow you on Instagram, whatever, where's the best places for people to go from here?
Just Ranbir.Sanghera on Instagram, probably the best place. I got a little bit of stuff. You're killing it on TikTok. I got a little bit of stuff, but it would be the same thing. I just Instagram Ranbir.Sanghera. So
Right on.
um, yeah,
Cool. Dude, I've been just having fun on TikTok.
I know. I
it's
see
I've
you.
it's I've been
It's a fun place.
it is. It's just goofy. Again, less, along those lines. I'll try to keep this short. Like you're talking about how soft beats hard. I'm just keeping it soft and having fun. And my following on it is blowing up that quick. I hit like 11,000 followers in like under a month.
Yeah,
But when I notice when like my online presence like starts to stall or plateau or doesn't grow, it's when I'm like, oh, best algorithm, best this. How do I
yeah,
cut the system? Like it's like,
dude.
I think
You're trying
in
to force.
everything, yeah, force never works.
It's when you're trying to force the fat loss within 6 weeks versus hey, that's being hard.
Yeah,
That's being hard. It's not gonna work, and it never does.
never.
So
Awesome, brother, man. Well, I love you. Thank you so much for hopping on here and taking a good hour and a half to talk with me. So
you
this is
are
good.
you are welcome. I love you too, man. Anytime. And you already know, like we could talk about stuff for hours. So
For sure.
uh, next
Awesome, bro.
time, next time it'll have to be in person at
Yeah,
In
no
and Out.
kidding.
We'll have
Yeah,
to do
we're
an In
gonna
and Out podcast.
In and Out pot. I'll bring the mics. Fuck yeah. Awesome, bro. Well, I will talk to you later. Thanks again.
You are welcome. And I do want to say one thing, just
Yep.
because I'm like, I think it would be a disservice to people. Is like, I'm committing to putting more strength stuff, technical stuff on our pages, so that once somebody kind of gets this part, but then they're like, okay, man, like I love myself, but I want to get fucking strong, man. Like,
How do I
so
deadlift?
yeah, like you didn't fucking talk about the goddamn deadlift. So go there. We will have tons of information. So
Awesome.
yeah. All right,
Awesome,
dude.
bro. Thanks, man. I'll talk to you later. Bye.